How's it going, everybody? How we doing today? Yeah, decided to do a little stream, and now I'm curious to see, do you hear double audio? Let me know if you do, or is it just me? And I'll try to figure this out, if it's me or not. Okay, you shouldn't hear double audio. Hi, everybody. How we doing today? I thought it was a good chance for me to jump on here and go over a couple things with these different cameras that I actually own, and I've had all of these for a while. So my name is John Ryan from Coffee Talk and Tech, and we go over everything that deals with streaming and YouTubing. So I started this channel approximately 15 months ago, and along the way I have used a lot of various equipment, and I've made a lot of mistakes and learned how to improve upon those mistakes and do better at the things I'm trying to achieve, which is create a channel where people can communicate, come together, and understand the different things that may or may not work for us depending on each other's needs. And so I'm not all about just saying, oh, this is Sony's are the best cameras to get, or Canon is the best camera to get. I'm more about what is going to work really well for that individual, what their needs are, what exactly are, we can't just take everything and make it cookie cutter for everybody. So let me start out by seeing who's in the chat and just saying hello really quick. And I see Martin Hewlett's calming anxiety. Great time slot for us heathens over the pond. For me, I use the ZV-1. No need to change anytime soon. It's a great for live streams, outdoor filming, and B-roll. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's a great camera overall. A lot of things get overlooked with it. And so if anybody has any specific questions on whether or not it's good for streaming, is it good for vlogging? What did Sony intend for this camera to be? So there's a couple ideas out there, but I personally own this camera, and I know what it does well and what it doesn't do well and what you can do with it. And so that's why I wanted to get into some of these things. And I started out on the Canon M50, and then I worked my way up from there. So let's take a look and see who else is here in chat. There's Kim Bucha. I think she was away for a while, so it's good to see you back, Kim. I know everybody's having a busy time of year right now, but welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you're doing great today. Anna, how you doing today? Nice. Thanks for stopping in. I know a lot of people are out there and they're discussing at this time, because there are great deals out there, what camera is going to work for them. So this might be great for you to come in here and take a look. VY World, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing great. It's been a busy time of year, and I hope you're enjoying family time also. So that's important. Cashew, how are you? Nice to see you here. I hope you're doing great today and you're having a great Saturday, right? Black Friday, how'd everybody do? Did anybody get any great deals? I have a lot of links in this description that I used from yesterday's stream talking about Black Friday and the things that I was particularly looking at. If any of those types of things are down below that interest you, take a look down there. I have accessories in there. I have different cameras. I have a couple lenses that we're going to actually be talking about, and on and on. So take a look, and if you have any questions, let me know. All right. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Sammy? Hope you're doing very good. Shift Kicker, how are you? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, I might get one for Christmas. And so which one were you talking about, Anna? So are you looking at the ZV-1? Are you looking at the E10? Or have you not decided, and that's why maybe you're here to try to see what fits you? Okay, let's see. Oh, here's Darren. Here's Darren. Are you an everyday show now? Hey, listen, man, it's a busy time of year. There's a lot of people shopping for this kind of stuff. There's a lot of great deals. You got to get out here and you have to see what works for you. And so I'm always about getting that info out to the community from a different perspective, because I don't hear a lot of people have strong opinions on different things. And when you have these cameras in hand right now, and you've used some of these cameras for months and months, and you know how they are, well, this is why I want to be able to show these types of things. So here is the Sony Zv-E10 that I'm using right now. And this camera I have just gotten probably about 3 weeks ago. And so far, I am so happy with it. I'm glad I'm catching up, trusting voice on tech. Thank you. For the most part, right? I try to bring some good information, and that is the idea. So this way, I'm not going to tell you what you need. I'm going to say, well, what are you looking for? And give you some direction. Yeah, I know not everybody knows exactly what they need. And so, yeah. You have to do a little of your own research. Do you need 120 frames per second? Do you need 4K right now? Can you buy a used camera in the market? I mean, here's the thing, right? The Zv-E10 comes out. The Mark II has been around for a little bit for Canon. Can you find a used product there? Now that you see the Zv-E10 come out and the price has dropped on those also by $100, can you find a used ZV-1? Now, I know in my area close to New York City, I can find a ZV-1 for as low as $450. Now, could you imagine picking up a $450 ZV-1 and getting right now, if you're a Prime member, you can get a lens that goes onto that camera and makes it a wider lens. And you can get that for $40, and it does an incredible difference in the width of your lens, because we're going to talk about the ZV-1 a little bit and some of its strong points and what maybe some people are fighting against. So no, I agree with you. It doesn't seem to be any drop my jaw deals this year for Black Friday. And that's because I think that there's some new cameras out. They're not willing to drop in price. There is a chip shortage. Now, they just announced, if you didn't see my stream on Tuesday with J.A. Smith, my co-host, we see that the A6400 is halting production for a while. So they won't be making any new ones for quite a while. And what 6400s are out there, they're going to sell, and maybe they're not going to drop the price at all for that. I just picked up this 6400 used with a 16mm lens, and it is literally brand new. There are deals out there to be used. You just got to make sure you're find trusting people to buy from, and you know what you're looking at. So yeah, I haven't decided. I'm in the beginner stage. I want a camera to stream as much as take pics, and that is something where, right? If we're YouTubers and we're starting out and you want to be, and listen, people take pictures with their cameras, but what kind of level of photography are you looking for? I mean, some people like to have a hybrid camera, and that's where the Canon M50 with its eyepiece. And you have to realize, when you look through the eyepiece of the Canon M50, it is a hybrid camera. It's meant for taking pictures and for video, and it does very well with using for photography. And so the viewfinder has a lot more resolution in it than, say, like the A6400. Because we know the A6400 strong points are definitely 4K video. And video in general, it's not typically your photography camera. Does it do great with photography? Yes, they all do. But it's just finding something that fits your particular needs, I think, sometimes. Right. Oh, God. So, yeah, is your lens bigger than mine? No. So, yeah, I deep dive into Sony cameras, not just Sony. We got a Canon in here too. That is still a very popular camera. It is a very good camera for a lot of people, and hence a camera that is definitely something that is out there that people can still pick up and utilize very well for YouTubing in general, because this is really the only true hybrid camera here, being that you are getting some benefits for a little bit more for the photography side, but then you are losing on the video side. So this is why, like right now, I keep the Sony Zv-E10 in my main spot in my studio. It's never gonna move from here. It's gonna stay here right now. Now, you guys don't see this right now, but I want to show you how I have these multiple cameras set up right now. And so this is the cameras in front of me. I have the Canon M50 Mark II. I have the Zv-E10, and then I have the ZV-1. That's a lot of ZVing, you know what I mean? So the ZV-1 is over to my right. And so they're set up. I have them lined up pretty well. And I'm going to talk about what's on the end of this ZV-1. Because if you know Ulanzi, they have a lens that you can adapt to this to widen the perspective. And I kind of want to go over about what that does for you. So, but right now, I just wanted to show you how they're lined up, what they all look like. And also, I just want you to know that we are using auto white balance in all these cameras. The only thing that I adjusted right now was basically a little bit of ISO difference, because definitely the Sonys are a little bit better in low light. This lens here that I'm using on the Zv-E10 and on the Canon M50, it is the Sigma 1.4 16 millimeter lens. Okay. And then of course the ZV-1 has an attached lens. It is at its lowest aperture at 1.8, and the ISO is up a little bit on the ZV because it is a smaller sensor, but it does surprisingly well in low light conditions. So that is definitely something to talk about. Yeah, so if you go and look V Wide World into my description under lenses, you're going to see the Ulanzi lens. And this adheres actually to the outer rim of the lens, and it's useful in different scenarios, but it is a heavy lens. But there's a question, right? A lot of people are like, oh, what is this? Is this, just a vlogging camera? Can I use this in my studio for YouTube? It's a nice, small, compact camera. That's why I got it. I use it as mainly my overhead camera, but I love that it's so tiny. I can take it run and gun. Don't have to attach a lens. It has defocus. It has showcase mode. It's got way better stabilization than the Zv-E10. At any rate, because when you have the lens together with the camera, it's going to be much more stable, and it is, and it looks better. The only problem you have with the ZV-1 is that when you hold it with just an arm's length, it is too cropped up on your face. So that's why this Ulanzi lens became popular. Okay, maybe you don't want to put this Ulanzi lens on there. It's too heavy. In my description, you'll see an Ulanzi selfie stick. It's an MT16. You adapt it on there. You pull out the selfie stick, and then it's a little bit more away from you. Listen, no camera's perfect, but this ZV-1 is super versatile, and I'm really liking it a lot. So, but every camera has its goods and bads. Thank you, John. That is exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, I'm going to show you though, okay? Because I have the cameras in front of me. So I'm not just going to say, oh, this is it. Or if someone asks me something, no, that's not good for that. I need a little bit more than that. You guys deserve more than that, okay? So people should get a better answer to just broad stroking everything and saying, no, that camera is not good for that. You need to know why so you can make better decisions. So let's talk about it a little bit. So first I want to do is let's pull in some comparisons a little bit. Okay. Here is the Canon M50. Now listen, just remember the colors are going to look a little different. The white balance is a little different. The angle's a little different, but just notice that these cameras all in 1080p right now are in great condition. Now, if you know right off the bat that you need a camera that's going to do 4K, then you know that the Canon's not going to be the one for you. But here is the Canon M50 that's right in front of me. It's a little bit different in low light conditions. It needs a little bit more ISO, tiny bit. And then, of course, the dynamic range is not as good, but the colors right out of it, you could see, are a little warmer. And a lot of people tend to like the warmth in the Canon M50 Mark II. Now, listen, there's a lot of choices that we're doing here. A lot of people that will be watching this will be people who like to record lengthy video, perhaps. So just remember that the Canon cameras tend to have the 30 limit record limit on them. So if you're recording video, you're going to have a 30-minute record limit. This camera is going to shut off. You're going to have to hit record again. The Sonys, most of them don't have that. And so we're not talking streaming. So if you're streaming, you're going to be able to stream for any length of time. I've used, the M50 for a long time for streaming, even the original M50. So we're not talking about that. So this is the look of the Canon M50 Mark II. Now let's take a quick look at this ZV-1. So we have the ZV-1 over here now, and my God, does this picture look pretty darn good for a super small sensor camera in a studio setting? So this is with the Ulanzi lens right now that you can get for $40. And I know for a fact that I could pick up a couple of these ZV-1s for $450, barely used. People have barely used them this year. And then you could put this into your studio, add a $40 lens right now to this. And I think it looks really good. The colors look really good. I think the image looks really good. And you have to be pretty surprised with this. And so you're saying, okay, John, but what does it look like perhaps with the lens off? So later on down the road, because it's much easier to take this lens off than on, in a little bit, I'll take it off. But I would imagine that a lot of people would use this in a studio setting and outside for that matter. So I just wanted to start out with being in a studio setting and show you pretty much what you were looking at. So, okay, so let's go back to the Zv-E10 because here's the truth of the matter. Okay, the Zv-E10. This camera is going to be my major studio camera. This is what I'm going to use it for all the time. And so the reason is it's a great camera. You're not going to find a better camera that can do more overall for the price. Okay. But that doesn't mean that you have to buy new. It doesn't mean that an M50 might not be right for you. And if you've watched my channel long enough, you know that I always have different perspectives of things. And I don't want to take that road for everybody because there are people here that really have a hard time dealing with the tech. And then you have people that are super creative. So they're very creative and they have great ideas for videos and their videos look amazing when they're finished. But setting up the tech is really slowing them down and it's brutal for them and it's hard. And so I want to give them that kind of thing where they can say, I can use something that is maybe perhaps a little bit less complicated. So we'll see what happens. So Tracy Park says, I asked Santa for a ZV-1, but he got a little creeped out when I sat on his lap, so I didn't feel confident. You might get a lump of coal. That is true. So that is a possibility. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're starting out from scratch and you are decently capable of learning tech, this is my recommendation. I mean, there's really no better camera right now for the price than getting a hold of one of these Zv-E10s. It's super, super great with this 16mm Sigma lens on here. Okay. And we get that wide perspective with it. Now this lens might not be the one for you. It all depends on your depth of field you're trying to get, plus where your camera is from you. So this camera is literally, the lens is almost at an arm's length for me. And so 16mm does really good. If I had a 30mm Sigma on there, it would just be too darn close in my face. And we would have those kind of problems where you kind of got to know the layout a little bit of what you want in your studio. But I love the Zv-E10. I think it's been really great. The focus tracking is really good. The Canon focus tracking is really good. And the ZV-1 is really good. So my question is, if you were looking for buying new, what would hold you back from buying this, right? So would the complication of learning something new, are you fighting the tech? Because even if you got this camera with the kit lens and you held off a little bit from getting the 16 mil, it's a really great camera that is going to serve you well all the way around. It is a full plastic body. Just keep that in note, okay? And this is why I think this is a pretty big deal right now with the A6400 not being around, and they're halting the production on that for a while. I mean, they literally said they're going to be building, Sony's going to be building a new factory in Korea, I believe, and they're going to be not starting that to next year. So they're expecting this chip shortage to last a long time. Where does that take the 6400s? I don't know. But that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get my hands on a 6400. And so now this is a full, okay, magnesium body on a 6400. And the body itself is much more sturdier and much more put together, and it feels like a tank in comparison to the Zv-E10. Does that mean you can't take your Zv-E10 out? You can't put it on a tripod. You can't take it, vlogging. No, you could do all those things. I'm just going to say that this thing is a lot more like built like a tank in comparison, okay? They built that Zv-E10 as a vlogging camera. They kind of market it as that. I don't know if it's the best for vlogging, but I think it's a great studio camera. I don't want to move this camera. This is my camera that I keep in my studio. Like a lot of people that stream a lot don't like to touch this camera all the time because it's just a hassle to set things up, because there's always that room for error where you make mistakes. So hello, how you doing, Everyday Tech? Yep. Patrick just picked up an A6400 used himself. I know that. And so, yeah, he says, welcome to the 6400 Club. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm really happy because my goal for the 6400 is to actually pick up a, what is it, an 18-105 lens, f4, I think it is for Sony. And it's a really good lens, and I'm going to use that to shoot my son for basketball and some sports like that. So I'll have the kit lens, I'll have the 18-105 f4, and then I got the 16 mil that came with this, so I can use this in my studio also. So that's the reasoning that I have behind the Zv-E10. It's the one to get. It's the one that if you're looking for something brand new, and listen, I want to keep this in mind for everybody. I talk about this a lot, and I just want to make sure you realize this. Make sure, okay, that you're not buying a gray market camera when you're looking for something new. And you're saying, well, how can I check that? The best way is to buy from a reputable seller. B&H, okay? If you're buying on Amazon, make sure that it's an authorized Sony dealer or an authorized Canon dealer. And that goes for, if things are used, it's a little bit different, except, within the warranty period, it's a much bigger deal. I'm talking about if you're buying new. You want to make sure that you're getting a USA, Canada, North American model, okay? Because if you go to send this in for warranty, that's where your problems will begin. So I've bought, it doesn't mean you can't buy on eBay or Amazon, but I definitely look up the store on eBay of where I'm buying it from and make sure they're listed as an authorized dealer, and Canon you have that ability to do that. So that's another thing that you can do. I got the 6400 for the same reason. I was tired of connecting and disconnecting my 6500. And right, Patrick. And Patrick himself at Everyday Tech, he's doing a lot of streaming and he plans on doing more. And so that would make totally a lot of sense for these types of people where they're setting up a studio. They want to walk into their studio and have it set up and not fight the tech every time they're getting started. Because I could tell you honestly, when I had the one camera, you're a lot of times saying, oh, you know, I forgot to switch it back over to video. I was taking pictures. I forgot to set this setting. Oh, I took the crop off, you know, because stabilization was on or off. It becomes a lot sometimes, and, you know, to cover all the bases. So those are part of the reasons. Yeah, that is true, Patrick. A lot of the gray market cameras are labeled international version, or they won't have, I think, an FCC stamp on the box, perhaps. And a good way is to just like, you open up that box. Mine was used, right? I got the original box. That was important. I open up the box. I saw in that box, there was the warranty card. And on the top, it said for North American USA version camera. So I pretty much knew that this person, you know, bought this camera from a USA, you know, authorized dealer for that matter. And the camera was impeccable. I mean, there wasn't one mark on the camera. There wasn't one mark on the lens. I couldn't have gotten a newer camera. It looks brand new. So I was pretty stoked about that. Hi, Patrick. How you doing? I hope you're doing good. And yeah, thank you. Hit that like, say hi. If you have any questions about cameras, let me know down below. Okay, let's go to this M50. Okay, now we have, here is the Canon M50. And it's kind of weird, right? For me to look over here, look over here, look over here. It took me about an hour or so just to set these cameras up to get these close perspectives and make sure that the settings were all pretty much even on everything. So that means that I took anything off in my streaming software that controlled any of the coloring. This means that they're all on auto white balance. The only thing that is changed in here is for each one is a slight change in ISO. And I'm running 1080p at 30 frames per second on every camera. So this is the Canon M50 Mark II. It's a great little camera. The things that I find amazing about this, the menu system, really simple to use. The touchscreen works for everything. Just know when you get a Sony, the touchscreen doesn't work for just only focus points. So you can touch that and you can get a focus point on your screen, but the whole rest of the menu system is all scroll and push button and go, which is great. I mean, all these cameras are amazing what they do for the price. The look that you're going to get while using any of these cameras are just totally amazing. I mean, I think that this camera looks really good. You just have to discount the auto white balance because you'll be able to change the coloring any way you want, right? You can white balance it. You can go in and use different picture profiles. I'm on standard profiles on every camera right here. And I have not manipulated any of the saturation or contrast in any of these cameras. And so this is the picture you look like. What you're getting. So the articulating screen is also on the Canon M50. So all these cameras, right, which is a blessing, all have an articulating screen. I really enjoy that. It's a blessing. And, you know, the 6400 has a flip up screen. No problem for me. It's just nice to have one of the other, right? And you can make everything work from then on, right? You can get different kinds of cages that let you do the things that you want to do. But the M50 is a great camera. Mine might be in the possibility of a thought of selling. I don't have an easy feeling about that. I absolutely love when I'm running and gunning with this camera that even if I'm vlogging, I don't have to flip the camera around, turn it around, say I want to make a small adjustment on it. I could touch the screen, change my ISO just a tad, or anything like that. I get it. You can just push a button from behind when you're good enough with these other cameras. But for a while, it's a little bit frustrating to have to look behind the camera to make sure I'm hitting the proper function button to change an ISO, whereas it's just so incredible to have it right on the screen. But like I said, the thing is, you might be able to find this camera for a really good price used. And if you get that ability when you're getting it, I think it's a home run. This camera is really simple to use. It's great for anybody that's starting out in YouTube. We can go on and on which one is better overall, because I already told you, go for the Zv-E10 if that's the case, and you can battle a little bit more of the tech. There's a little bit more of a learning curve, but it's just a little. I'm not saying be afraid of it. I'm just saying that if you're one of those people, right, where if you think back when VCRs came about and they were like, okay, can you set my VCR time? And so people that couldn't set their time on there, that's the kind of person that I'm relating to. Someone that has a really difficult time where it's going to crush them to try to learn this tech, much more than the average person. I think this is the best camera to get at that point. Start out with this. It will let you do what you need to do without getting hampered by the tech. Okay. And so this is why I suggest this camera. But I say, look out for these cameras new. You can't find them much anywhere new right now. The Canon M50 Mark II, I had a hard time finding new right now. The other thing is what do you think about the 6100? I think the 6100 is good too. It's just that as each step went forward with these Sony cameras, the AI got better and then the color got better in each camera. The 6100 is really, I don't even think you could buy that anywhere. So the 6100 also is one of those cameras that is on that list that they're halting production on if you could have got it anywhere to begin with. I noticed that they stopped selling them just about everywhere about 6 months ago. And then it was only just the 6400 at that time. So I really enjoy the 6400. I think it's a great camera. The 6100 would do you just fine in any condition if you got it for the right price. Because if you're buying a 6100 for, I don't know, let's just throw something out there used. You're buying it for $650. Okay. I think it's too much. I think that perhaps if you're going to go 800 brand new and go get a Zv-E10, then why would you get the 6100? I mean, unless you were just like $150 was a lifetime away, I think spending the extra money would be much more brilliant. And being that you can get a 6400 used in the price range of, let's say, $700 to $800, why wouldn't you get the 6400? It's a better camera. And so the 6100, depending on the price, becomes the issue. So me personally, I would not spend more than probably, if it was the body by itself, I probably wouldn't buy anything. If it were me, $600. Like I wouldn't spend more than $600 on a used 6100. And that would be even debatable. So it really depends on what you can find. I mean, when you can step into something so much better, $150 just makes all the difference to be, it's a smart decision. If you're serious about YouTube and you're looking to improve, these extra things that you'll get with the newer cameras will make a difference. And you may say like, well, there's not really that big of a difference from a 64, from a 61, but there's enough of things if you go hunting. We've gone into depth with this in streams talking about some of the differences and how important they can be. But listen, you get a great deal. I'm not saying you don't pass it. So again, the M50 Mark II, great camera. I'm really happy with it. It still sells like a hotcake. It's one of the best selling cameras ever out there for a crop sensor. And I still think that if 4K is not like a major issue for you, because this does not take very good 4K. Okay, you're going to lose the focus. It's really going to be a basic manual focus type of thing. This is where you would definitely go over to the Sony cameras. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, okay? Let's go back over to the ZV-1 for a little bit. The ZV-1, this camera actually does 4K, but the 4K is straight up 4K. And what I mean is, if you didn't know this, is that the Sony Alpha cameras, they take a 6,000 sample rate of 4K and downsample it to 4K. That's why the 4K, everybody raves for what you're getting out of the Sony Alpha cameras is really great. But here's the problem that you have, and everybody knows about it. It's not a secret, okay? The rolling shutter in the camera is horrible. So if you don't know what that is, you can look that up. You'll find out what rolling shutter is. It's basically when you move that camera from side to side, it pretty much makes the whole picture wiggle like it's jello, okay? But the fact is, the ZV-1 does a much, much better job of controlling its 4K, because this is a true 4K camera. And so they're not oversampling, which I think helps it in a lot of ways and makes it much more useful. So the 4K actually can look pretty stunning in the ZV-1, and another reason why I like it so much. And so by the time we come back to the next round of this, I'm going to take off this lens, that Ulanzi lens that is on the ZV-1, so you can get the true look of what it looks like from about an arm's length from the ZV-1. And then you're going to see what a lot of people talk about of why this isn't such a great vlogging camera off the bat, and where they dropped the ball a little bit as far as this camera, because they were really pushing this as a over-the-top vlogging camera. And why did you make it so tight on people's faces if that was the case? And the majority of the time, because you're vlogging, you're pulling in your stabilization, so that crops you in a bit more also. So it really does a tough job of, being able to see any background. And that's why, if you take a look at my description again, you can get that Ulanzi MT16 selfie stick, which will really make a big difference. And this way you don't have to put this Ulanzi lens on, which is pretty heavy in comparison to the camera. So the next time we come back, just keep in mind, look how wide this looks. Look how much of the room I have. Look how much headroom. I mean, this Ulanzi lens, from what I can see and what everybody else has said, I can't see it taking anything away from how great this camera looks in general without adapting this lens to it. I think it looks fantastic, and we'll take a look a little bit later of what that looks like when we go back. So we'll go back to my main camera, which is the Zv-E10. And we're back at this camera now. So again, I want to reinforce the fact, don't waste your time looking for something for a studio and an all-around decent, good camera, okay? You don't have to go full frame. Don't feel pressured into that situation where you need a full frame. I have one full frame that's used for photography. My wife uses it a lot. It's actually the Canon EOS R. Everything in the studio here is basically crop sensors with good lenses and adequate lighting. So the lighting is going to really make a huge difference in the quality of your pictures. A lot of people always ask, what camera are you using? And they're surprised that we're streaming in 1080p, where a lot of people feel it's 4K or it looks amazing. Or they're like, it looks amazing. What are you streaming at frame rate wise? And so, yeah, this is 1080p. 30 frames per second. It's not 60. It's not 24. I used to stream at 24. Streaming at 24 is fine too. I prefer the look of 30. And that's just me. But everybody gets compliments when you do your lighting correctly, because it makes everything that much better. So the next thing that I want to do is, while I'm here, just at this positioning, I'm going to go over and take off this lens on the ZV-1, right? And so I'll switch over this so you can get a little bit a better idea. See this little thick lens on the end of this? I'm actually going to just unscrew this, and it's pretty hefty on the end of here. And so I don't want to drop it. I want to try not to drop it, of course, but you know how streaming goes. It always happens while you're streaming, because I didn't drop it before, okay? And I'll switch back. Okay, so here it is. This is the lens, and this lens, not just a wide lens, it's actually a macro lens also. This lens splits, and then you can have another lens in it that you could just keep on to get really good close-up pictures. This is good quality German glass in here, and so don't discard the quality of the look you're going to get. It's not going to change anything with the ZV-1, so just keep that in mind. Okay. All right, so let's move back to the ZV-1 now. Okay, here's the Zv-E10. We could see how open this was. It's pretty much what the ZV-1 looked like with that lens on. Now I'm going to go in, and you're going to see a little bit of the crop that came in with it. It's not horrible. It just pulls it in a bit, and this is why I still feel that it looks great. So I could adjust the headroom, of course, so I could pull this up a little bit more, but I wanted to show you that lens because I wanted to let people know this can be an absolutely fine camera to use for a YouTube studio, especially getting started, and the easeability and the lightness of this camera, and not fiddling with lenses and being able to run and gun. And this is the thing, you could virtually put this camera in a pocket. It's that small. And you're finding a lot of the bigger YouTubers, they're taking this camera and using it a lot more than even their A7S IIIs, because they just know it's not easy to take a camera that is as big as that, even though it has great IBIS stabilization, that $4,000, camera, and run and gun and make things easy, where you can keep a ZV-1 at bay anywhere and just take it out of your pocket and utilize it. And so here again, it's going back to what is going to be actually helping you create more content. And that's the goal. It's not about having what you think is the best, or is the best. People have the best cameras and they get stuck with learning it and they don't use it and they sell it next year. That happens with so many products where people buy something and then they end up not wanting to use it because it's so far over their head. So just keep that thought in your mind. It's not always what we think is the best, but again, this is the look of the ZV-1 without that Ulanzi wide angle lens. And all I would have to do is bring up this headroom a little bit, and this is the look you have, which I still think it's a great camera for what you're getting. And then don't forget on both of these cameras, the M50 Mark II and on the Zv-E10, I have the Sigma lens that actually was on sale yesterday on Amazon for $300, which has been the cheapest that I've seen in the last 2 years. I don't think it's ever been that cheap, brand new. So here it is. This is the Canon M50 Mark. Having that Sigma lens for $300 is exceptionally good buy. And if you're in the market for that lens, yesterday was a great day to go ahead and buy it. I actually was lucky enough to pick up my A6400 yesterday, used with the Sigma 16mm lens and the box that came with it. Looks brand new, and so I was really fortunate to pick it up together for that price that I got it for, which ended up being really exceptional. So I don't see anybody asking any in particular questions about any of these cameras, or what are some of their other strengths or weaknesses. Like I said, if it's truly something that you want is exceptional 4K, then it's pretty much going to be the Zv-E10 or the A6400. Just like I said though, note the A6400 is going to be difficult to get probably for a while. So keep that in mind. So I don't think that you could go wrong with any of these cameras. All these cameras have the capability to have their audio come on and be able to see it in the screen, your audio levels. All these cameras, they have in a headphone, not a headphone, a microphone jack, okay? Every one of these cameras does. The only camera that has a headphone jack is the Zv-E10, so that gives it a little check mark as far as having that. So I would also keep that in mind when you're doing it. And also, I think that like I said, the 6400 is what you want if you're going to be using it as a well-rounded camera. You want to take it outside. You're going to use it inside in the studio also. So I think I'm close to getting the 6400. Well, first of all, hi, Far North Home and FISA. Thanks for coming in. But this is something that you don't want to wait too long on, because Sony announced that the A6400 is actually going to be halting production because of the lack of chips that are out there for the cameras. And so they're going to probably be pushing a bit more of the Zv-E10, and they don't, you know, the 61, the 6400s, I can't find a 6100 new anywhere around here. The 6400s though, once they sell out, it's going to be really difficult again to pick these 6400s up probably. So if you're waiting, don't wait for a big sale. I don't think you're going to find one new and the prices are going to go down. I was super surprised that still the price is where it is. I thought it was going to drop, but people are like, oh, well, if the Zv-E10 is such a better camera, why haven't they dropped the price on the 64? Because the 64 is made out of a different material that costs money. It has got a magnesium body that is much stronger, much more robust. You have a sealed camera where dust is affected as a Zv-E10. So if you think you're going to take your Zv-E10 out into the woods, out here, a little bit of dusty conditions, it will affect that camera more than it will affect the 6400 in any way. Definitely a much more robust camera. I mean, you could take a look at the reviews yourself and see what the differences are. But I am going to be taking my 6400 out into the fields, basketball courts, into the woods, and that's what I'm going to utilize it for. And before I did that, I was using the Canon M50 Mark II for photography. I think it's great if you're a viewfinder person. I know a lot of people aren't, because if you're 30 and under, 35 and under, you didn't even use a viewfinder forever, right? Because you've been just basically taking your phones and just taking pictures like this and pushing buttons. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. But if you're a true photographer who wants to step up a little bit, then the M50 is the way to go. It's much more of a hybrid camera all around. But if it's video you're looking for at a higher level, the Sony cameras are the ones that will give that to you. So yeah. So let me see if there's anything here. Yeah, camera talk is always fun. I always enjoy it myself, and just the little nuances that people have to realize. And being that I have every one of these cameras, it gives me the ability to show people what it looks like and the difference of having like in a studio condition, because I think a lot of people here will be doing that. And so, yeah. So yeah, I watched for a few months and it's still expensive. Yeah, it really is. It's definitely something that I noticed right from the first couple months, where I thought this would drop down in price, but it just literally never did. And then Tracy saying, I know myself well enough to know that I need compact and easy to use camera. Maybe the Zv-E10 is the one for me. It's not that. I mean, the ZV-1 is the compact small camera that doesn't have the interchangeable lenses. The Zv-E10 is the camera that you really want to keep mostly in your studio. It's a smaller camera. It's got changeable lenses. And honestly, if I were you, Tracy, I mean, I would definitely recommend, if you were going to look for new, get the Zv-E10, and then you're gonna get your Sigma lens and you will look like about as professional as you can look at that point, right? But you're definitely gonna drop, say, you know, $1,150, $1,200 total. So that's what you'll get for both you know, if you're, or maybe like $1,000 if you just bought the body. But I would always recommend, I know people have different opinions with this, but I would always recommend when you get a camera to buy the kit lens with it and then buy another lens. The kit lens is like used, it would be like an extra $100. It's a great tool to have in your bag. You don't want to take a 16 mil and stroll around if you're doing some vlogging outside. You could throw that kit lens on. It makes total sense to have that kit lens on there. And it still is going to look really good. And the thing that I love about the Zv-E10 and the ZV-1, because they share the same 3-point microphone, is that without using any other microphone and just using the muff that comes with the microphone itself with the camera, it is the best microphone on a camera that I have come to use, and it's extraordinary in my opinion. So I'm really happy with it. So again, the Canon M50 Mark II, if you can find this for a steal of a deal, I am going to probably be selling mine soon. It is a great all-around camera, and it gives you a great image. And the video in 1080p is really good. All of my videos until a couple months ago, I was using the M50 Mark II all the time, and I was pretty darn happy with it. So now that I have the Zv-E10, there are reasons, okay? Because eventually I'm looking to step up to a total 4K stream. Or if I choose to do a particular one in 4K, or if I want to shoot 3 different angles with cameras in 4K, this is going to be better for me to have the Sony cameras. But if I was starting out like I have used this Canon, it was perfectly fine for a long time. Just remember, I'm not average either. So I'm a little bit more above the cutting edge of having new stuff, and not everybody, not most people are like that for that matter. So I just want to point that out, because when I talk about things, it's a little bit of a different perspective sometimes. And so here we'll go back to the Zv-E10 one more time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to get this lens back on the ZV-1. But I don't know how well I'm going to do with that. I would love to try to get it on there and show you once, but that's why I wanted to show you the before and after, without having to switch lenses. But I might do this. I might just pull that. That is not my Zv-E10 anymore. This is my Canon this is my Canon EOS R. I'll see. This is what happens when you start getting old eyes. The older eyes and the fingerprints on there, but this is what happens sometimes. So, okay, once again, you can see they're pretty lined up even. And now I'm gonna go back to the ZV-1 with the wide angle lens. And once again, look at that. Look how wide that picture is. I think the picture looks fantastic. And this is the reason why I think the ZV-1 is so versatile. You can just plug this into a battery bank and keep this running, or you can buy, even though that doesn't have a little notch out in the battery door, you can leave the battery door open with a cage, and you can use like what I'm using. Every one of these cameras that I have in front of me have a dummy battery running in them at this current time. So I think you can't go wrong with any of them. So I want to take scenic photography around Alaska and then put the images in my house. I mean, I think you're right up with it, Anfisa, with going with the 6400. Get the 6400. It doesn't have the best viewfinder, but it doesn't matter. You're not a professional photographer. You're going to be blown away how great the pictures will be. The camera body itself is very robust and strong, and then you can grow with it. And, you know, if you don't have like super challenging learning curves with tech, then I would just go with the 6400. And then if you're going to be doing some of these different things, you can look into different lenses when you're ready, which is like the same with me. I would love to pick up a 18-105 f4 lens. It's the G lens for the crop sensor camera. It's beautiful on the 6400. And then I like the 16 mil, which is what you're seeing me on the Zv-E10, but I'm not using that right now. So yeah, I would go with the 6400. You'll be happy with that. Yeah, this setup looks great, right? Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of places, and Paul, the flippin' sports guy, he's over in Philly. You can find somebody that is going to be selling one of these cameras for 500, 450 even, all for a 450. See where it goes. If you can get one of these and pick up this lens, it's such a great little camera to have. I think it's great for that price point. You can't go wrong because it is so versatile. I think anybody would be happy with it. I agree. So if nobody has any more questions, those are the things that I wanted to bring today for people to get the actual view of each camera instead of just saying, someone saying something about the camera, but not really being able to take a look at it. Just keep in mind that all the video that I took today is 1080p and it's 30 frames per second, and auto white balance is off on everything. So auto white balance is on for everything. So every camera, it's white balance is being adjusted by the camera. And I wanted to just show what it would look like straight out. And I just, being in a studio condition, adjusted the ISO for each camera. And once again, I think the ISO on the ZV-1 is at 500 at aperture 1.8. And still, look how great this camera looks at 500 with this small sensor. That's why they say that this camera does pretty good in the low light conditions too. Now listen, is it going to be as good as the Zv-E10? No. When you go to a crop sensor from a small, pretty much a 1-inch sensor, 1-inch sensor on the Zv-1, the bigger the camera you get, the main factor is that the low light capability of that camera increases. And so that just goes with the factor, right? And then you have a lens that you put on, and the lower or bigger the aperture gets, which 1.4 lets a lot of light in. It really helps your camera to do that. So a lens is important, and the Zv-1 has a lens that comes on the camera. You know, it's like part of the camera. So its lowest that it goes is 1.8. And in general, they've done comparisons with the Zv-E10 and the Zv-1, and they were all really surprised of how great it does in low light conditions in general. So most people would be really happy with this. And I think that if you could pick this up for the right price, you would be too. So listen, if anybody wants to reach out, ask any questions to me at all, where they can go and ask me anything about these 3 cameras in any way, go to Instagram. You can go and message me at Coffee Talk and Tech, or also in my channel, I do have a email address that you can reach me at. So, just let me know. But yeah, great demos, explanations, John. I really enjoyed it. Oh, great. I think it's a lot of good information to go into, and you could go even digging deeper on a lot of these specs, but I just think it goes over a lot of people's heads, and I'm not really about going over people's heads. It's kind of like they know what they need to use it for, and then they get there. Sometimes they don't even know what they might use it for. And they just like saying, Anfisa's like, I just want to use it for photography and stuff. Well, you can do any kind of, pictures and video with that. It's a great all-around camera. You can't beat any of these cameras when it comes to how great the quality is in these in comparison to what you could have bought like 4 years ago. So, yeah, Tommy, I missed that. Do that whole thing again. Does the Zv-1 have any type of weather sealing? That's a good question. I do not believe it does. So I wouldn't like take it out like I would the 6400, but double check that art. I'm not positive, but I do not think it does. I only if I really know, do I go into telling you if I know or not. I know the 6400 does, because that's what really differentiates it between a lot of those alpha cameras. And so I do know. She needs a Moose approved camera, right? All right. Well, to be honest with you, that 6400, well, I have to say it's probably Moose approved. I think there's a stamp on it that I saw. It says Moose, Moose approved. That's hard to say, Moose approved. But yeah. All right. Well, I hope everybody's enjoying their extended weekend and everybody had a great Thanksgiving for that matter. I'm going to switch over to my main cam. And if nobody has any questions, I'm going to head out. I hope everybody is doing well. And take a look in my description. Again, if you're looking for anything, they're all affiliate links in there. So you do know, but it's of no extra cost to you guys. But there are very useful things in there. You could find some really good deals on the lighting. And we had really good deals going on with ELGATO. So go take a look at the ELGATO website, see what's carrying over to Cyber Monday. There'll be a lot more sales, I'm sure. Yeah, it's not the best year for all this. It's definitely not the best year, but we gotta take what we can get. So everybody, thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in, Art, by the way. And he's recommending someone for tech reviews, Alaska-based tech reviews. That's kind of cool, actually, right? Everybody's got a little niche that they're working on. Yeah. And so everybody, thanks for coming in, Vince, and my mom, thanks for coming in. So Tommy's saying, I'll sell my 6100 for 7 million cash, since it will be hard to find. It's been hard to find for a while. I think the 6100 is kind of like an older camera at this point, and it does pretty darn well. But even the 6400, it's still, the technology is, Sony's going to be looking into bringing out a new crop sensor camera that's probably going to blow a lot of people away by next year. So they're kind of halting things probably in the sense to push the Zv-E10 in some sense too, because they know they're going to rather push their new camera and have the chips that they need for that instead of a 6100, which I haven't been able to find for 6 months, and no one's going crazy looking for one new. So I think everybody's trying to grab a 64 at this point, I don't think a 66 is even worth it in my eyes to jump up into that IBIS. That is not really great. Sony's not really great at having great stabilization in any means in these crop sensor cameras. So I wouldn't spend the money for it, but that's just me personally. Other people feel the same too, of course, but, bye, Art. Thank you so much. Okay. I'll check them out. She's going to check that out. Thanks, Art. And, what does it say here? Plus, if it hurts the ZV series sales, right, no incentive to make. They're not looking, they want to sell their newer cameras. I mean, that's the idea. They are businesses. They're trying to make money. So I would assume that too. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for coming out. I hope you guys, is the 6400 pretty heavy as far as vlogging, or is it manageable? It's manageable with the right lens, but honestly, I think you got to go with the kit lens on that. The kit lens is going to give you plenty of good enough quality. And when you use it wide open I think it's 16 mil, you're going to have a aperture of 3.5, which is plenty wide and plenty enough to get some light in while you're outside. It is just as heavy as a lot of cameras in that range, where they're all probably around, 800 to 600 grams at that point. So, all something relatively light. But the fact is, I just feel with, the ZV-1 is extremely light, much more lighter for vlogging. But the 64, the Zv-E10, the Canon M50 Mark II, they're all that kind of camera where they really kind of start wearing on your arm after, 15 minutes or so. So you're going to have that baby strong arm where you can cradle that, where it puts a guy like me to shame pretty quick, though. I'll tell you that. The A6400 with a Tamron 20, yeah, 2.8 makes a great lightweight vlogging setup. Yeah, what does that Tamron go for? That's a great lens at 2.8. You're not getting the huge bokeh, but you'll definitely do wide. You'll do well because it's a fairly wide lens. Yeah, it is a good lens. I've looked into that actually too myself. But yeah, I mean, it will do for vlogging, but it all depends what kind of vlogging you're trying to achieve, because the stability with these it's not good. I mean, the ZV-1 is without a doubt much better when it comes to stability. So it depends what you want. Go look at the footage of people vlogging with it and talking about it. You'll notice. Go to Camera Conspiracies. That website, that channel is amazing. It's one of my favorite. He does a lot of vlogging with everything. You can see him vlogging with the M50, the ZV-1. He'll vlog with everything that's out there. So go take a look at Camera Conspiracies if you're looking into anything vlogging. So yeah, that's it. But thank you all again for coming in. Appreciate Cashew for being here. This is one of the streams that I have not had a subscriber have to be a subscriber to come in. I just wanted to see if anybody new could stop in here and see what's going on, and you know, see if we can hold our own against anything. So thanks for being here, everybody. Yeah, the stability with the 6400, you know, it's not great at all. They're not great. But when you're talking about, you can't get one camera for everything. It's like, that's why the versatility in like a ZV-1, where I could use this Ulanzi lens, and that's why I go into this, because I just made everybody think like, oh damn, now I got to rethink this. Yeah, you might have to, but the thing is, you can't just take someone's opinion and be like, oh, no, that's not a studio lens, the ZV-1. That's not a studio camera. It darn well could be, right? I think it looks pretty darn good. I'll tell you right now. And if you could pick up one of these used, or even if you wanted it new, I just think that you have to counter everything in with this camera. Whereas if it's the one camera that you can afford and you could take it on trips, you can take it vlogging, you can use it in your studio, then it's pretty darn versatile. I don't know why someone wouldn't buy this and put this in their arsenal. That's the way I look at it. And yeah, so cameras, I love his sarcasm too. So yeah, Camera Conspiracy is the best. Even my wife, like, how can you not? He's so darn sarcastic and he's hilarious. He just went over recently 100,000 subscribers. I'm a big fan of him because he goes out of the norm, right? With almost insulting people. He's so darn funny, and I think he does a great job, though. Hopefully, I would love to be that sarcastic and get away with it. Oh man! All right, well, I'm gonna head out. I think I about had enough for today. I'm gonna go find the fam and see how they're doing. I hope everybody's doing great again. In a dusty, oh God. So how well can the ZV-1, listen, no camera is going to be doing fantastic in dusty deserts and sandy beach conditions. I mean, you get sand in something, you're going to have a problem right off the bat. That's why do you think a lot of people go and buy a GoPro? You buy a GoPro and you just put it on standard 1080p or 4K and not its widest look. You got great stabilization. And that's why if you watch my channel, I scream to people and say, go buy a GoPro 7 Black. It was $210 brand new on Friday on one of the deals on Amazon. But you can pick that up with a case, waterproof case, even though it's waterproof itself, but it will take it even lower. You could pick up the 7 Black GoPro for $250. It's great. I have one. It's sitting right here. I actually used it and brought it to Thanksgiving because you can just walk around with this. The stabilization is great. The picture is great. And I'm all about getting the ease of use, right? The ease of use. You won't take stuff and utilize your camera if it's not the easiest for the conditions you're looking for. So just always keep that in mind. And so, yeah, so that's my thing. So, all right, Tracy, thank you so much. And yeah, just keep that in mind, people. Easy use is always the key to things. You want it to be easy so you do utilize it. Otherwise, you will not. So guys, take care. Have a great night. I'll catch you on the next stream.